Now I'd like to introduce symposium panel moderator, Dr. Cheryl Ramirez-Sangueza, Associate Professor in the School of Education at the University of Guam. Dr. Sangueza is also the co-PI of the National Science Foundation Includes CIS Island Alliance. Hafa Dr. Sangueza.
Hafa and good morning. Thank you to all of you who logged in early. Hello and welcome back to the 2021 University of Guam Conference on Island Sustainability. We have a great panel this morning titled NSF Includes CIS Islands Alliance. My name is Cheryl Sangueza, and as Lauren said, I am the Associate Professor in the School of Education, co-PI in the Guam Hub, along with co-PI Elsa de Molinera and PI Austin Shelton, along with awesome program associates Morgan Leon Guerrero and Remy Perez. I am primarily in charge of student experience, which includes a near-peer mentoring. I also do similar activities with the Guam EPSCoR student participants. And again, before we turn it over to the speakers for brief introductions, we'd like to thank the amazing behind-the-scenes team at the University of Guam for all their tech support today. Also, a quick reminder that we are recording this webinar for the recording will be available through the Conference for Island Sustainability website. So we have a great panel featuring the PI of the NSF Includes CIS Islands Alliance, along with the representatives from all three locations affiliated with our alliance. Please enjoy the information about our grant and the personal stories of how our work aligns with the decade of ocean science for sustainable development. Also listen for how you can partner and network with us. Kristin, can you please post our grant's website in the chat so folks can take a peek while they enjoy our panel. Panelists, please introduce yourself and your affiliation with the Alliance. And let's go ahead and start with Kristin.
Good morning, good evening, or good day, depending on where you are joining us today. And thank you, Cheryl. Thank you to the University of Guam for organizing this conference on island sustainability and for this opportunity to highlight the work of the National Science Foundation funded CIS Islands Alliance. My name is Dr. Kristin Wilson-Grimes, and I am the principal investigator for the CIS Islands Alliance. I work at the University of the Virgin Islands on the island of St. Thomas in the US Virgin Islands in the Caribbean, in the Center for Marine and Environmental Studies as a research assistant professor. My science passion is coastal wetlands, and this includes mangrove restoration, but I also have a passion for the ways in which we can make the geosciences, including marine and environmental science, more diverse, equitable, and inclusive. Next up is Pedro.
Here we go. Thank you, Kristin. Buenos días y hola a todos. My name is Pedro Miguel Maldonado Rivera, and I am from the beautiful island of Puerto Rico. I have many identities that are important to me. I am a Latino, a Hispanic, a father, a husband, a friend, a mentor, a professor, a scientist, and of course, I'm one of the co-PIs for the CIS Islands Alliance Puerto Rico Hub. That's why I'm here. I work for Universidad Mendez, and my background is in computer science. But for the past few years, my passion has been to mentor students, helping them to achieve their goals in life by showing them that it doesn't matter where you were born or the language you speak or the color of your skin. What really matters are your dreams. Take it, Jess.
Buenas and Hafa. My name is Jezreelyn Bulaklak, and I'm originally from the island of Saipan in the CNMI, but currently I'm a senior in the chemistry biology program here at the University of Guam. And as part of the Alliance, I was in the Guam Hub's first cohort of undergraduate fellows in 2020. Our programming lasted a year, and in that time, I was under the mentorship of Dr. Andrea Bloss in the plant pathology lab. And most of the work and research done in the lab focused on our and genetically modified organisms. In addition to the lab work, we had many other activities, including near-peer seminars led by Dr. Sangueza, which focused on discussions connecting culture and science. Furthermore, this fellowship supported my participation in the SACNAS conference, Plant Health 2020, as well as the CIS conference, both now and last year. And lastly, through this alliance, I'm excited to be part of the Bridge program this summer at Penn State under Dr. Ed Dudley. And with that, I'll pass it on to Soely.
Thank you, Jess. Hi, everyone. Hola todos. My name is Soely Luyando, and it's a pleasure to be here with you all today. I just recently joined the CIS Islands Alliance as a workforce fellow in Puerto Rico. I graduated from Universidad Mendez in Gurabo, Puerto Rico, with a bachelor's degree in biology. During my undergrad, I had the opportunity to work in different ecosystems and working with different animal species. But my undergrad research and my passion was focused on how climate change affected native freshwater shrimps species in El Yunque National Rainforest. My current work here in the CIS Islands Alliance as a workforce fellow focuses on providing research and logistics support for all the project activities. For example, working with pre-college and undergrad students, engaging them in ocean science topics and for them to continue and pursue careers in the geosciences. And as part of my workforce fellow, I am also working with one of the program partners, the Hobos Bay National Estuarine Research Reserve. And the purpose of my work here is to have my first real job experience, which in fact I started on Monday. And well, here my job will focus on advanced water quality monitoring and physical and atmospheric parameters monitoring. But I will also have the opportunity to explore different areas like outreach and education, which I enjoy a lot, and also do biological monitorings and work on the conservation of corals and manatees. So now I would leave you with Isabel.
Well, first of all, congratulations, Soely. And thank you. Hola a todos. My name is Isabelle Sanchez-Viruet, and I am a current CIS graduate fellow from Puerto Rico. I completed my bachelor's degree from Universidad Metropolitana, or now Universidad Mendez, under Pedro Maldonado's mentorship. So he's been my mentor since 2012. Don't do the math. I have been part of the CIS Islands Alliance since 2019, and I have participated as a peer mentor for undergraduate students interested in geosciences. I have taught them about how awesome the geoscience field is and how much I love and miss the Puerto Rican food now that I am studying in the US mainland. I'm currently completing my master's degree at the University of Maryland Center for Environmental Science. And my current work focuses on studying floating wetlands and their potential to remove excess nitrogen from tidal waters. And back to you, Cheryl.
Thank you very much. For all those present, you have a little appetizer of how energetic and awesome our crew is. So I hope you continue to listen to the inputs of our grant and the personal stories. For those of us unfamiliar with the NSF Includes CIS Islands Alliance, Kristin, can you please give us a brief explanation of the grant, its reach in research, and how the research accelerates ocean sustainability or ocean science goals over the next decade?
Absolutely. Thanks, Cheryl. Well, as we all know, island regions are strongly connected to the oceans that surround us. And island communities are some of the most diverse in the United States. Yet the geosciences and the ocean sciences in particular remain the least diverse of all STEM fields. A mere 8% of the geoscience workforce is comprised of individuals from underrepresented groups in STEM. The CIS Islands Alliance is a National Science Foundation includes $10 million investment to broaden participation in the environmental and ocean sciences by working with communities from 7 US and US affiliated island jurisdictions across the Atlantic and Pacific Ocean. Hubs, Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, and of course, Guam. The CIS Islands Alliance supports students from underrepresented groups in the geosciences by illuminating a full career pathway and by increasing their sense of belonging in STEM by connecting them to each other and to other STEM professionals and mentors within and across these island hubs. The CIS Islands Alliance supports students through programs that happen at the pre-college, undergraduate, graduate, and workforce levels. Over the next 4 years, the Alliance will support more than 600 island students through scientific and professional development trainings, research and internship experiences, family events, professional networking, mentoring, and other cohort building activities. If you're interested in learning more about the CIS Islands Alliance, its activities, its participants, and about connecting with us, please visit our website, which is at www.cisislandsalliance.org. CIS Islands Alliance programs and activities support the vision articulated for the UN Decade of Ocean Science by supporting emerging ocean leaders who will generate new knowledge in support of a healthy, safe, and resilient ocean by bringing their unique island perspectives to ocean sustainability problem and solution spaces. Research shows that teams with greater diversity produce better solutions to complex problems than less diverse ones, and that more diverse teams enhance creativity and innovation. Transformative ocean science solutions for sustainable development will require all of the creativity and innovation we can muster, which means we must invite, include, support, and nurture diverse individuals in these spaces, including those from our island regions. The CIS Islands Alliance supports island students from underrepresented groups in STEM in their science and in their personal journeys, and it represents a significant investment in the people who will shape the UN Decade of Ocean Science. We are so excited to be here today, and again, thank the organizers for this opportunity to highlight the work of the CIS Islands Alliance and the experiences of some of our participants. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristin. Pedro, can you please share some additional aspects of our grant programming?
Keep forgetting to unmute. Sure, Cheryl, I will try to do my best. So to accomplish the goals that Kristin talked about, each CIS Islands Alliance hub integrates evidence-based interventions across a common pathway. The pathway starts with field experiences and enrichment activities for middle and high school students. Examples of these includes a program offered by the University of Virgin Islands, the Youth Oceans Explorers Program, which is a 4-week summer hands-on and field center activity. A program offered by the Guam Hub, where 15 high school students participate in a 6-week place-based research experience in the Guam Restoration of Watersheds Initiative, is another examples of the programs that we are going to have at the CIS Islands Alliance. We then continue our pathway with field and research experiences and career experiences for early graduate students. As an example of this, in Puerto Rico, we are leveraging our Tortuga Center, another NSF-funded project, to offer a multi-year geoscience education and research program focused on coastal science problems and solutions that are important for the local communities. Next, we have our Bridge to Graduate School program for upper-level undergraduates and master's students, which brings them together, which brings our top students together from all hubs for an 8-week research experience at one of our R1 research institution or partner institutions. Our program also provides some funding for bridge program students to pursue master's or PhD training through partnering institutions. Penn State University, University of Maryland Center for Marine and Environmental Science, University of Virgin Islands, and University of Guam. Currently, we have students pursuing masters at UVI and UMCES. Isabel, which you guys already heard from, is part of this, panel, is one of those students studying at UMCES. And last but not least, we provide for the creation of local jobs in each hub region through the establishment of Islands Alliance Fellows Program, which will place Islands Alliance participants in local marine and environmental science related jobs with our local partners. Soely, which you also heard before, you heard her talk at the beginning, is one of those workforce fellows from Puerto Rico, and she's working with the Hobos Bay National Estuary Reserve. Finally, to complete the pathway, or the complete pathway is supported by cross-cutting programming at each hub that includes faculty and near-peer mentoring, family programming, professional networking, and cohort building activities that have been identified as evidence-based best practices for supporting students in STEM. Cheryl.
Thank you, Kristin and Pedro. I'd like to add, aligning to statements that Austin and Nicole said in the first day, that the Guam Hub does have a Bridge to Bachelor's program where we just sent out flyers to our neighboring island colleges to recruit for neighboring island students to partner with our UOG faculty student team for a summer internship. So we are doing what we can to expand the experiences throughout our region. Kristin and Pedro mentioned goals such as building capacity, a variety of research opportunities, and impacting sense of belonging in individuals, especially underrepresented minorities. Now we get to hear from awesome personal stories from a few of our participants. The question I pose, please share and seize Islands Alliance experience that impacted your sense of belonging. Share how that experience strengthens the management of our oceans and coasts for the benefit of humanity. Let's start with Jez.
All right, thank you, Dr. Sanchez. Again, I was a fellow last year in the plant pathology lab here at UAG, and my research experience in the lab was focused mainly on arbuscular mycorrhizal fungi, or AMF. And to provide a brief summary of what AMF is, it's symbiosis with plants helps them with uptaking important nutrients such as phosphorus or nitrogen. And AMF is especially important when studying nutrient deficient soils, such as the Badlands down in southern Guam. And introducing the native AMF can aid in soil restoration by improving the aggregate stability of soil, which this in turn reduces soil erosion, which would otherwise run off into the ocean and smother coral, harming the reef ecosystem. But as I mentioned, my experience with the Alliance extended from the research to the numerous activities and interactions with peers and mentors across the island hubs. And a common takeaway from all those experiences, which I felt most impacted my sense of belonging, was realizing the importance of reflective discussions. That is, understanding and sharing the purpose of what you're doing, why you're doing it, and your potential impact in the community. And yeah, I feel that's what made the program unique from others, how the sole focus wasn't just the work or research, but because of those many activities to self-reflect as well as share our thoughts with our fellow peers. And the near-peer sessions with Dr. Sanchez specifically helped me to articulate my thoughts, which influenced me to be more actively engaged and mindful of the impact of my experiences rather than just being detached or passive. And being able to reflect and discuss these ideas with fellow islanders helped build my confidence because I was able to relate to their experiences and also appreciate our differences. I remember one of the recurring topics in some of these discussions was the feeling of imposter syndrome, which if you're unfamiliar with, it's suffering from self-doubt or feeling like a fraud despite your achievements. And one of the mentors in the program, I can't recall who exactly, but they talked about how it never really goes away. Despite all their years of education and experience, they still get that feeling of, what am I even doing here? Or am I even qualified enough? And what helps with those insecurities is surrounding themselves with a strong support system, in addition to reflecting on their motivations and the value of the work, which serves as sort of like positive affirmations. So discussions like this helped with my personal growth, as well as understanding the relevance and impact of research, not only on Guam, but in the other neighboring islands with similar conditions. And this is especially important to me because, as I mentioned, I'm from the island of Saipan, and my end goal is to return home to be able to contribute to the STEM education and increase the capacity for research there. And this is basically my why, which the fellowship helped clarify my motivations, because I had little exposure to STEM research growing up, which initially made me feel out of place when I began doing research on Guam. But through the mentorship and experience I've gained from this fellowship, I've developed that sense of belonging, as well as the skills, confidence, and that I can hopefully use to both actively contribute to and also influence others to be more concerned with sustainability and environmental health, because it affects all of us, and most especially the islands. And it's amazing how programs like this, the Seas Islands Alliance, is helping to contribute to the rise of local scientists in the islands. And I'll end with that and pass the same question on to Soely.
Hi, everyone. My name is Soely. Thank you, Jezreelyn. I'm sorry, I will not turn on my camera because my signal is very bad. And if I turn it on, then you can't see me or hear me. But like I said, my name is Soely Luyando from the Puerto Rico Hub. And to answer the question on how my experience has impacted my sense of belonging, I want to share with you today two things. So first, I want to share my research experience, and then I want to share my experience as a workforce fellow. During my undergrad studies at Universidad Mendez, I had the opportunity to research in many areas, like I mentioned. But I started my research experience as a volunteer in the Ecology lab. For my first few years, I was a volunteer in this lab, and we were doing migratory and resident bird census in the dry forest in the south coast of Puerto Rico. And later on, thanks to the guidance of the PIs in the lab from Dr. Valverena, which is part of the Seas Island Alliance, and Dr. Schaffner, I was funded by an undergrad research program and was able to conduct my own research measuring bird communities, abundance, and distribution. And with this, I assisted to my first conference, the Society for Advance of Chicanos, Hispanic, and Native Americans in Science, also known as SACNAS, where I disseminated my first research. And the mentorship that I received from the PIs in the lab, Dr. Valverena and Dr. Schaffner, helped me to apply to other volunteer and research programs. So first, Dr. Valverena gave me the opportunity to assist PhD candidate from UMCS, Maryland, Juan Pablo Alvarez, to conduct his sampling in the bioluminescent bay in Vieques, Puerto Rico. And this was my first experience in the ocean and coastal ecosystem. So they guided me through this process, and also they helped me apply to my first REU internship in the Virginia Institute of Marine Science, and to study how sediment depositions due to land use affected oyster populations in the Chesapeake Bay. And this made my second ocean coastal research experience. And I want to remark that I was not part of the Seas Island Alliance or the Tortuga program that Pedro mentioned during this time. And Dr. Valverena always supported me and guided me. She always made me feel welcomed in the program. And she offered me with volunteer and research opportunities that made me find my place in the scientific community. When I came back from my internship, I joined Dr. Ocasio's lab, and I researched on how climate change affected shrimp, freshwater shrimp in rivers and streams of El Yunque National Rainforest. But the mentorship from the Tortuga program did not leave me once I joined Dr. Ocasio's lab. In my last year, I presented my research on freshwater shrimp in the Aquatic Ocean Science meeting here in Puerto Rico. And the Tortuga mentors, Jamie, Laura, Maldonado, and Valverena, guided me through the process of preparing my presentation. And I was also able to practice with the group and even present my project in their session. So during this meeting was when I knew I had found my place in the scientific community. I was not only given a space in the Alliance, but thanks to the guidance and mentorship, I found what I truly loved in science, and that is research. So now I have been given the opportunity to be part of the Alliance as a workforce fellow. And like I said, this is my first job experience after I graduated. And I have the opportunity of working with pre-college and undergrad students, and also working with the Hobos Bay National Estuarine Research Reserve. Like I said, my work not only focuses on water quality monitoring and, the conservation of the natural resources, but also impacting the young pre-college and college students to continue pursuing careers in geoscience. So both of these things are important for my island. And that is why I feel like the program and the Alliance have an impact in my life and also an impact on the conservation of our natural resources and coastal and neutral ecosystem in the island. So now I will leave you with Isabel. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Soely, for sharing your experience. And hi again, I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Isabelle Sanchez, and I am a graduate fellow from Puerto Rico group. And my experiences with the Alliance, they started a long time ago. In 2013, when I was an undergraduate in Puerto Rico, I had the first opportunity to do some cool science. And it was a small pilot RU program with UAGM and the University of Maryland Center for Environmental Science, UNCIS, and Maryland Sea Grant. I work with copepods, which are microscopic bouncy animals, and in a bioluminescent lagoon in Puerto Rico. I was ecstatic, but I was also terrified. I had no confidence in my English, and I thought that science would be too hard for someone like me. But more than that, I didn't know what the University of Maryland Center for Environmental Science was and where Maryland was in the US. Nonetheless, this group, they all took the time to learn about us, me, and our culture. Like how much we use the word revolu to refer to messy situations and things, and how good the Puerto Rican arroz con habichuela is, honestly. They all took the time to provide us with the foundational knowledge and the tools to navigate the field of geosciences. For me, this experience really made up my mind. I wanted to become a scientist. Since then, Maldonado and the Alliance have been there for me in every step. Recommendation letters, tips and tricks to improve my always evolving English skills, and advice beyond undergraduate research. They also provided a safe environment for me to study, to rest, and connect with other students at El Vagón from UAGM. In 2014, I was able to participate in an internship with Maryland Sea Grant, working with phytoplankton or microscopic algae. And after graduation, I decided to not pursue a graduate degree right away. And the Alliance supported me, and they provided me with the tools on how to navigate and succeed the geoscience workforce. And as a result, I was able to participate in an internship with the Department of Natural and Environmental Resources from Puerto Rico in 2015, mapping coral disease in the southwest part of Puerto Rico. After that, when I decided that corals were not my desired career, and I wanted to focus more in biogeochemistry, they were still there. And they helped me build up my network, which led me to have 2 jobs with leadership positions. One was at Boston University, and the other one was at the University of Maryland Center for Environmental Science, but this time at the Chesapeake Biological Lab. As part of the geoscience workforce, the Alliance was there to provide advice on how to navigate cultural differences and shared professional development opportunities. I'm currently completing my master's with Dr. Laura Harris, who is part of the Puerto Rico Alliance group, and Dr. Jeremy Testa. Their laboratories have an extremely supportive environment, which has allowed me to implement my perspective and identity into my research, which is very important for me. And overall, the Alliance has taught me about the geosciences and have fostered a welcoming environment for me, my culture, and my identity, which is what I really look for. And to answer the question on how these experiences have helped me and strengthen the management of our oceans and coast for the benefit of humanity, well, I have learned that it is important to get to know the community and learn their culture, their environmental problems and needs, and let those problems and needs kind of guide the geoscience research. And in the same way, UMCIS took the time to learn about me and my culture and my needs when I was in Puerto Rico. I have also learned from this experience the importance of community engagement and make research on geosciences something familiar to the communities rather than a strange and obscure thing. So I think to strengthen the management of our oceans and coast for the benefit of humanity, there has to be a sense of in me, but in the local community want to do research and help. And that's all I have. Going back to you, Cheryl. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you, panel. And for the 107 folks attending this morning, you've heard a little bit about our overall grant and what it offers from Kristin and Pedro. And you've heard some great, inspiring personal stories from 3 of our participants in the grant. That's a nice representative of overall what students are experiencing through our support. And you also have the website if you want to peruse our website to find out ways that you can network and connect with us. So this concludes the paneling answering questions part of our discussion here, and we are now going to field some questions. I have a question that I'd like to, we'll go ahead and start and pose this to Kristin and or Pedro. What was one of the struggles the program went through because of the pandemic? And how has a program overcome it? And some of our students can also answer this in terms of how did the pandemic impact your participation? But we'll start with Kristin and or Pedro.
Sure, thanks, Cheryl. You know, this pandemic, nobody was predicting this pandemic, right? Nobody wanted this. Nobody was predicting that it would happen. I guess maybe some communicable disease folks were predicting it. But, you know, it was really hard, right? The pandemic hit when we were less than 6 months into the first year of the start of what is a 5-year project, with some teams that had been working together for a long time and other teams that had just worked together for a little bit of time. And this was the first time that we were all trying to come together to work to achieve the goals, the shared vision of the Seas Islands Alliance. So I think one of the things that was really tricky was for us to figure out, you know, how do we build trust? How do we build those personal connections that Jezreelyn talked about being so important? How do we do that now that we're 100% virtually? You know, we were lucky in that the first kickoff meeting for the Seas Islands Alliance happened in January of 2020. So we sneaked in kind of right before. So some of the folks that are kind of helping to support the programming from our different locations, we're able to meet in person. And a lot of that, I think that's something that we can all relate to this year, that there is something lost by only connecting with people in these virtual spaces. I would say though that that challenge or that struggle though has turned into a real strength, because probably like many of you, we figured out in some ways, how do we do this? How do we do this better? How can we try to create these more personal connections, these more personal relationships? How do we do this better in these virtual spaces? And so that's one thing. And I think I'll stop there and then let Pedro chime in with his perspective. Pedro?
Sure. So thank you for the question. And yeah, I mean, the pandemic has been really, really hard, because a lot of the activities that we had in our alliance were field-based activities, right? So we thought we were going to be able to take all these students and expose them to the wonderful environments that we have in our islands, right? And that way gain their appreciation for science, right? We wanted to make them fall in love with the beauty of our islands, and we couldn't do that. Also, the mentoring relationship, which is what brings me to this project and what really motivates me to work, it's really hard also when you can't be with your students in a safe space, in an environment where you're talking to them, where you're looking at them, where they're joking with you, where you're spending, you know, quality time together. Because I mean, we couldn't get together. University completely shut down, and in Puerto Rico, we had a complete country shut down for like 3 months. You know, you can only go out to buy food and gasoline. So of course it made it really hard. But like Kristin was saying, one of the things that is good about the pandemic is that we realize that there are other ways of doing things in a way that we're able to use them again in another year, because we're recording everything. So before we would go out to the field these wonderful experiences, and maybe we had photos of the field experience, but if somebody wasn't able to go because they were sick or for some other reason, they couldn't really participate. Now we've had to figure out how to record these outings, record the beauty. So now we have, you know, this knowledge that is available to other people. So that has, you know, that is, I think, the good part about the pandemic, right? If there's anything good that could come from a pandemic. So it's made us better. Of course, we've had to pivot. You know, we are ready. We're dying for this pandemic to be over so that we can go out to the field again and be in the water, be in the ocean, which is what we all like to do, and motivate our students. But for now, we're doing the best that we can.
I'd like to add on to that and cite the determination and the persistence of our participants, our undergraduates, and all the participants, the fellows. They were on board with all the shifts that we had to make. I recall having near peer discussions on Zoom with a student in the field on the phone, answering to his mentor, but taking the time for the value of this discussion. So thank you for our student, our participants, to be right there with us every time we had to shift to ensure that we put forth the best experience. There was another question. Hold on, because my chat thing is blowing up right now. The value of identity. I know some of the panel students, you folks cited identity. So in a really brief, the question was very specific. What is the value of identity in science? Would somebody like to, one of the student participants like to answer to that? I see Isabel saying yes. Would you like to answer, Isabel?
Yes. Well, you know, for me, how important is the identity in science? I mean, for me, the identity is like everything, right? If I can't be myself in a different place, in a different island, in a different country, and I can bring my perspectives and maybe my techniques in the way I approach science and a science question, you know, for me, it's like, why would I be doing science, right? And that's like why the Alliance have been so awesome for me, because they have allowed me to you know, bring those how do I say it, words in Spanish are hard to translate in English. My experiences growing up, you know, they shape the way I am, and they shape the way I see nature. And when you are in a very rigid science field that, you know, everything is one way, the same way all the time, and this is how we approach a research question, and this is how we go to a community and how we talk to them, and then how we do science, and then we walk away, you know, that doesn't work for me. Like growing up, I learned that science, there's foundation science, and then there's science to help, and I want to do that. And growing up, the way my identity was developed growing up really takes me to that path. And the Alliance have allowed me to use science as a tool and to do research as a tool. So for me, you know, I think identity just makes it or breaks it. And the Alliance has helped me, you know, bring my whole self and my perspective and my experiences growing up. So for me, it's everything.
Thank you very much. There's another question I'd like to pose, unless Jez or Soely, would you like to add on with the identity and your perspective on its value in science?
I agree with Isabel. Actually, I feel like when you grow up in a way much different environment, you see that when you connect with other scientists, when you go to other places, and when you share your research and your experiences with other people, and there you see the difference. And I think, like Isabel said, it is important to have that liberty and that space to be yourself, because we all bring different perspectives to science and different ways to approach it. And if there's only one strict way to do things, then, you know, where's the diversity, where's the creativity? And, you know, I feel like identity is very, very important in science because of that.
Thank you. So, and I see Jez shaking her head, and she did cite identity and the value of that in her original input. I'm going to move on to another question. So this is for the panelists. How do you connect your research topic to everyday life? What did you learn about yourself through researching your research species? Let me know if you need me to repeat that question.
So can I go first?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I want to say that I grew up and I actually live in the countryside of the island. So I live in the mountains. I am surrounded by nature completely. I have streams close to my house, and my family also grew up here. So this is where I live is called a barrio. So I live here. All my family has lived here in the past, my ancestors. And hearing their stories from the species that were in those streams close to my house, and me now being here and not seeing those species, for example, the shrimps, like I mentioned, I love working with shrimp. That is what I love to do, freshwater shrimps. When I did my research on freshwater shrimp and I had that experience in El Yunque, and I was seeing this huge shrimps and just all the diversity that was in there, I went home and I talked to my parents and I was like, this is what I'm seeing. These are the pictures. And they said, you know, I think what you're talking about is this. And they mentioned the local or colloquial name of the species. And I was talking science to them. They were talking back to me in colloquial names. And they were saying, you know, we don't see that anymore here. So then I thought how us humans were impacting those water resources and how through generations, I was not seeing what my parents were seeing in those streams. So there I try to, you know, connect those things. And I have worked on educating my cousins, which are the next generation, my little cousins, on to conserve the environment and our surroundings, because we all live here still and we still have that stream, and to, you know, always clean and pick up the trash to try to, you know, conserve our environment, because all those things that are in El Yunque, which is untouchable, you know, it's a protected area. They're still there, those shrimps, and we're not seeing that here where I live. So I think when I saw that in El Yunque, to close up, and I saw how big the shrimps were, how the abundance of it was, and I was not seeing that home, that's when I knew how important it was to conserve and protect our natural resources, and the importance of education to the local people to protect their environment.
Thank you very much. I'm going to share this question with the other two panelists. And just to remind you of the question, how do you connect your research to your everyday life? And what did you learn about yourself through your research? Jez, would you like to share?
Yeah, sure. So as I mentioned, I mainly work with AMF, or arbuscular mycorrhizal fungi, and also with genetically modified organisms. And I think that impacted me in my daily life by making me more appreciative of what, like, the underlying mechanisms, because those are like really tiny things that we don't usually see when we go about. And it just made me appreciative of science, and it showed me how broad of a field STEM is. I think because growing up, I had a really limited perspective of what science was. So being introduced to this research opportunity showed me the different pathways that you can take in the field of science. And like, I also want to share, like, it makes me want to share with like the younger generations, especially like in Saipan, of how broad the field is. Yeah, that's all.
Thank you. And Isabel.
Yeah, so for me, I have, it's similar to Soely. So I grew up very close to El Yunque National Rainforest. And I spent most of my time just, you know, going off trails, maybe being a little reckless by going off the trails. But I grew grew up. And growing up in the mountains made me want to learn more about the ocean and the coast. I'm like, okay, I love the mountains, but now I want the coast. What's on the coast? And most of the research that I was able to participate, it was related to, you know, what is the biology of a coral? What is the biology and the ecology of sea urchin, Dia de mantilarum, which was very common it's very common in Puerto Rico. And although it really helped me be very, fell in love with science, I also saw other areas of Puerto Rico that were, you know, as my grandmother used to tell me, like, this was clear water in the San Juan Bay, and it's not anymore. And when I used to run around, you know, I would see like very green water, brown water, and I couldn't understand what was going on. And I was like, well, you know, there is so much research out there about the ecology of all these animals and plants in the subtropical rain desert here in Puerto Rico. But I want to do science that helps me solve why this water was clear and now it's not. And that really changed my direction and what I wanted to focus. And I wanted to use science as a tool. And that's what I do now. And that's how it's shaped, and that's how I use it every day, because what I do, it's for my personal end goal, right? And a career end goal, which is to use it as a tool to help solve environmental problems that I see, that I grew up seeing in Puerto Rico. And that they're not only unique to Puerto Rico, right? They're coastal, so most of the coastal estuaries are eutrophied and they need solutions. But that is how I connect my research to my everyday life. And it's just growing up, seeing a lot of changes in nature, starting my science, right, experience, seeing a lot of research that was not geared towards a solution, but just to like an understanding, which, don't get me wrong, understanding ecology, it's also going to, right, help with resource management. But I wanted to like go more into the action. Like, I want to solve this right now. Like I want to do something right now. And I mean, I guess that's how my experience has geared me to what I do now. And that's how I connect with it every day.
Thank you very much. Kristin, would you like to address this question?
Sure, I'd love to, Cheryl. You know, I think listening to Jez and Soely and Isabel, one of the things that I heard in the stories that you shared was that, you know, really the importance of local knowledge in addressing and responding to some of the environmental problems that our islands face, and the importance of paying it forward through passing on what we're learning with the communities that we're a part of. One of the ways that we're doing that here in the US Virgin Islands is through restoration. One of the things that I know the Puerto Rico folks on this panel will certainly identify with, and I'm sure folks from other regions will as well. But, you know, in 2017, the US Virgin Islands were hit by 2 Category 5 hurricanes, Irma and then Maria, in just a 12-day period. And that caused massive infrastructure damage here to the islands. You know, it fundamentally changed people's lives and the ecosystems that are here. One of the ways that I you know, in my own work is focused on understanding how mangrove ecosystems responded to that natural disturbance and how they're recovering. And the focus now is on understanding, you know, can we assess that, figure out the best places for restoration, and can we figure out, you know, the best ways to grow out the 3 mangrove species that we have here for restoration. And it's not just restoration, but the other COI on the Seas Islands Alliance from the US Virgin Islands, Dr. Marilyn Brandt, is also working on coral restoration. And while the reefs actually fared pretty well from the 2017 storms, they're facing other disturbances from land-based sources of pollution, which is something that probably a lot of our islands are familiar with on our that are affecting our nearshore reefs, but also here in the Caribbean, a new disease, the stony coral tissue loss disease. And so we're both active in ways the community in these restoration efforts, ways in which we can involve our Seas Islands Alliance students. So in both of our labs, for example, we'll be supporting undergraduate students in a partnership with Virgin Islands EPSCoR and the Seas Islands Alliance to support some undergraduate students in those restoration efforts and restoration science experiments that we're doing. And we also both have graduate students who are working on both coral restoration and mangrove restoration now, some of whom are affiliated with the Seas Islands Alliance, which is just outstanding. It's growing these networks, it's connecting with community to create solutions to some of the ocean problems that we are facing. And those are things, those contributions from all of these diverse individuals from all these different places are just going to make our science richer, as you heard about from Jez, Soely, and Isabel already. And it's so exciting and it's so important as it relates back to the UN Decade of Ocean Science. Thanks.
Thank you very much. We have like 2 more minutes. And I want to pose this question that I hadn't sent to my student fellows, student participants yet, but if you can give one piece of advice to a younger student who's wanting to explore science, but they don't feel confident, somebody that you wish someone told you early in life, what would you say? And hopefully those folks listening can perpetuate this in whatever environment you're in. So this is your one chance, say something strong and folks can walk away and say, yeah, I'm gonna make sure the youth get this message. What's one tip that you would like to share? This is what I get for not prepping them the question.
I got it.
I would say, oh, I'm sorry, Isabel, you can go first.
I would say, just do it. If someone tells you that, oh, you might need more experience, just do it. Just apply to that internship. Just sit down and just prep your application and just apply. You just have to do it. Otherwise, you'll just doubt yourself all the time. Just go for it. Thank you. Soely.
So I would say that there is always opportunity and there will always be a place that you will be able to fit in and you will be able to feel comfortable in. So don't be afraid. And like Isabel said, apply and have as many different experiences as possible so you can know what you like and what you don't and where do you feel comfortable.
Thank you. Jez, you're gonna wrap us up
Yeah,
here.
my answer is actually a combination of both of theirs. So my life motto is actually always Jez do it, because my name is Jez and Jez do it. And yeah, don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to try new things and delve into those different opportunities, because you never know what you're interested in unless you try it. So just go for it.
Thank you very much. Thank you, panelists, and thank you everybody who listened in during our 1 hour. Please visit our website. And we hope today inspires you to perpetuate these messages in any venue possible. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Dr. Sanchez and Seas Island Alliance Hub for sharing with us your experiences in the Alliance program and how it's creating more education and career pathways for Islanders in STEM.